Welcome to episode 7 of the TFP podcast. I'm changing the podcast name. We're no longer BNF. It is now the Familial podcast. I have a really special guest with me today. His name's Jonah. He makes music under the handle Jonah Show. I'll make sure that's in the description. Jonah and we met at Costa Vida. I want to say probably like a year and a half ago,
Yeah,
maybe.
you're 2 years.
Yeah, and I remember when I met you, you told me you made music. I was like, oh, I gotta get your number. Like, send me some of your tracks. And dude, I'm not gonna lie, the music, like, I resonated with it so heavily. I connected with it, and I don't even know what brought us together because usually I'm like, if I meet someone and if I'm chopping it up with them, like, I'll just leave it at that. But I just met you, and I was like, this guy has a great energy. I gotta like see what he does, and I'm
Honestly,
very
dude,
grateful.
absolutely. I feel like I'd complimented your style. That's how I feel that went because I've always gotten in a habit. I feel like men don't always get compliments when their fit is fire, so I try to dish it out. I think that's how I remember it going down, as I was like,
Right.
by the way, I love the style. Like, I don't know, I think that's how I remember it going down.
Dude, it is so fun. So when I met you, I was with my girlfriend at the time, and the whole time
Gotcha.
she's like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, why do you feel like you have to like talk to this dude?" And I was just like, dude, I was, I was like, I just have to. Like, you can just tell. Like, I don't know. I feel like I have a good read on like good people, and you're a great dude, and everything that we've
Means a lot.
talked about in the last year and a half, we've just like kind of kept up via text or
Yeah.
Instagram. And I just want to say I really appreciate you. I love what you do. And I was talking with my buddy Kyle. He makes music, and I was talking with him, and he asked me to give him a toast, and it was at like a little concert, a little performance venue, and he had just performed, or he was like playing music that he had just created, and he asked me to give him a toast. So I get up there, and I said something that resonated with you as well. So I want to kind of give context, but
Yeah.
I basically I said it's one thing to promote your homie's music. It's another thing to genuinely believe in the product. And I genuinely like believe in the music that you make, and it is
Dude,
so, dude, it is incredible.
that's the biggest compliment that I could get, honestly. And I first off, let me let my cat in. He's crying.
Do it, dude.
Derek, Derek, come in. Come on, buddy. Uh,
Let's go. Oh my god,
but
it's huge, dude.
he's huge. Say hi.
Uh,
But
That's a
what
big
I
cat.
yeah, and his name is
Holy.
he's named after Derek Zoolander.
Okay, let's go.
But what I wanted to say is, I remember, I mean, throughout me knowing you, I've gotten texts from you where you're like, dude, I I genuinely love this song. And every time, like, it is always like boosted my, not like my ego, but my confidence in my music. Cause I don't always talk to, it's, I guess that's something that I don't do really well, is share my music. And so
Mm.
when I have people like you who I have shared my music with telling me things like that, it means a lot to me. It helps me know that, I might be doing something pretty well.
You're doing
But
something amazing, man. And I'm telling you, I want to open the door to like talk about who you are and like,
sure.
everything like that. But, I do want to say real fast, just that your music, it got me through a breakup. It got me through like with that same girl that you met. I was like, I broke up with her, or we broke up, and I just remember like your song "Wish Me Well" just on loop, dude.
Dude,
and then
no way.
you don't live here anymore, on loop too. I was just like, this is everything I need. And yeah, dude, I genuinely like, again, I just believe in what you do, and it comes from a place of like genuine. I don't have ulterior motives. Like, I really don't.
Yeah.
Like, I just love the
No,
music.
that
So
that means a lot, dude.
of course. So thank you.
Yeah,
But
anytime.
Jonah, I want to touch on like who you are, like what you do, And when I met you, you were in Arizona, and now you're in
Mm-hmm.
Virginia. If you want to talk about that transition, just the floor is yours for this.
Sure, Brett. Yeah. So there, I do live in Virginia now, and honestly, my move from Tucson to here has been it's been life changing, of course, as it always is. And I'll definitely go into like why I moved, but of course, I'm Jonah. I make music as the Jonah Show, and I haven't always made it's like more my solo venture that's turned into lately my primary venture, which has been a lot of fun. And I've got two songs out. I've been very sporadic with my releases, but I have been working on so much. My goal is to release more music though, because I work on a lot of stuff. A lot of it gets kind of forgotten, and then a lot of it I just really focus on. And I'm working on finishing stuff instead of being more a perfectionist, because the perfectionist in me, it keeps people from hearing these songs, you know what I mean? But they're really good songs, and I don't say that to be like, oh, I'm the greatest, but I'm really, really proud of them, and I, I'm so excited to share them. But that being said, I used to make music with my big brother, and we're getting back into it. I'm super excited about it. Our band is called Anthemic. So I make music as the Jonah Show. We've got Anthemic. I've got another project that I was working on with my little brother, and we're all starting to merge it all into two different streams, which is the Jonah Show and Anthemic. But um, my music production, I I learned it all with Anthemic, and some of the most special songs to me were made with my big brother, and he's the lead singer in that band. So it's been cool. That's what makes the Jonah Show so special to me is, that's the music that I get to sing on as a lead singer. And
Right.
so it's really different music. So it's cool. I'd say that the Jonah Show is more of pop music. It's my pop side, and then Anthemic is like alternative rock, pretty
Wow.
much. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do, and I don't know if you hear my cats crying
Yeah.
in the background,
No, it's perfect.
but yeah, I love music. It is literally my life. It's all I it's all I do is either listen to music or I'm making music, and I feel like I consume a lot of music, and lately I've been
Mm,
dialing it back because as someone who makes music, I sure do like consume it a lot, and it really sometimes it can put a damper, sometimes it can be really inspiring,
right.
but honestly, Brett, I've been in a period of creative revival lately.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is like I was having a hard time. I was like, why do I even make music? I don't enjoy it. It just feels like a chore, and I feel like I'm trying to make this album just to say that I have an album.
mm,
And but lately I've not been feeling that. Lately, and it's all about my intention with it, really.
right.
Um because my intention lately, I've had a shift. I've been trying to make music without worrying about what other people think about it.
Right.
Trying to make songs that I don't know, just be creative, I guess. I don't really know what the direction of what I'm saying is, but pretty much
No, dude. Yeah, you
I
touch on
love
some like really heavy and like important things.
yeah,
it, you said something before we started this podcast, and you were talking about Virginia, but I definitely think it applies to music. You said it is what you make it, and I
yeah,
think that is the one of the most powerful statements one can make. Because I growing up in
yeah,
Tucson, Arizona, everyone's like, "Hey, like it's the most boring place on earth. Why do you love it?" And I'm like, at the end of the day, it is what you make it. If you want to go out and
absolutely.
if you want to say it's like the most boring place, you can. But I think Tucson was like perfectly boring to where you had to be creative and you had to find new
Yeah,
hobbies and like, pursue new things. And, when it comes to, like you're saying, like making music, it is what you make it. you see what you seek at the end of the day. It's like if you have that feeling of, man, like, why am I making music? I'm just doing this to make an album. Then clearly the intention was in the right place. And how did you overcome that? Like, what you talk about, a creative revival. How
Yeah,
was that? What was the step that you made?
that's a great question. So, in let me open the door real quick for my other
Hit
cat.
it.
Lily, come on in, buddy. Come here, buddy. I guess I'll show this one. Ah, this is my
Dude, no
orange cat,
way. This one's
Leo.
big too. Why are they
Yeah,
both so big?
they're both dudes,
Yeah,
and they both have really high pitched voices. It's hilarious.
that's
Um,
awesome.
but so context. This is my house that I live in. I don't own it. It's a townhouse that I live in with my big brother, his wife, and my big sister. So we're being adults out here, paying rent and stuff. So I've been working a lot, and
Right.
I really like what I do for the most part. And I think, let me backtrack. I've been making a point of liking what I do.
Mhm.
I work for Verizon. I sell phones, and the me who worked at Costa Vida would have loved this job. And I found myself in a pattern of going to work and coming home and just hating it. And I work 35 minutes away from here, which the drive can be a drag. You know, just getting stuck in traffic here is crazy, dude. It's so
Yeah,
congested
I bet.
compared to Tucson. So I was just in a perpetually bad mood all the time. And then I'd be like, I still got to make music. And so I'd sit down and I'm mad while I'm making music. I'm like, what am I even doing with my life? I'm just have such a bad attitude. And it was the same for my big brother. I'm so close to my big brother and his wife and my big sister. We are, we lived together in Tucson when you and I met. We we all kind of migrated over here at kind of different times, but now we all live together again. But
Wow.
my big brother and we always get to talking, um, and we were just like, we've got to realize that it's not that deep. Like
Mhm.
the problems that I have at work, or the fact that I hate the drive to work, or have I was hating it. I actually really enjoy it now, but it's pretty much we decided that we need to have a mindset shift, and we need to catch ourselves when we're in that mode. Or if I'm at work and I'm dealing with something, like, it's not that deep, bro. Like,
Right.
look for the good and calm down. So that was really the start of it. That was about a month and a half ago, and since then because I've been making a conscious effort to be positive, and I've not always been so negative. It's just I felt jaded for some reason when I moved out here and started working so much. It really I felt a shift in myself, and so over the past like 2 months, I would say, I've been getting back to my mindset that I had when you and I met. Because if you and I had met now, like if you came in to buy a phone from me at that time, or I'd say about 2 months ago, I don't think that I would have. I don't think that you would have really liked me, honestly,
Mhm.
because I don't think I was making an effort. And so that being said, I felt a lot more like myself. I've been, when I go out into public, I try to wave at people.
Right.
I haven't really liked my community. Well, and that's been an internal thing with me, but overall, I think that I've been less depressed. I think that's a big part of it too. And
Mhm.
it's just mindset, bro. That's
Yeah.
all it's been. Nothing has changed around me. It's just waking up and not being like, "Oh, I got to go to work." It's more like, "Ooh, I get to go to work. I have a job where I sit in a chair and talk to people about phones, you know?"
Right.
Like I said, the me who worked at Costa Vida would have loved it. Um,
Gotcha.
but
Yeah,
all
it's
that,
you. That's such a interesting. I'm so sorry to cut you off, but
no, you're
it's such
good.
a just like having that mindset switch and understanding, like, I'm not in a good place right now is the first step. And it's the first step, like when you get into therapy, it's like the key to realizing like this is the key to realizing like and finding progress is realizing that you need help, or admitting that you need help, or
Yeah.
admitting that you need some sort of reform. And you know, I was in that place without a doubt for a while, man. It was you know, it was rough. And I know you listen to a lot of music, and you know, I always thought like music was the healing factor for me of like how I get through problems. And it
Yeah.
absolutely is. I think music heals 100%. But when I was finding my mindset switch and my reform, it was I need to be alone in silence. And because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, music is it's content, like it's media. Like people are saying words that you're hearing the instruments playing, and they're telling you something, you know. And I love sad music, but I realize when I'm like sad and I listen to sad music, like I'm just always gonna be there, you know. So it became
Absolutely,
this,
dude.
yeah. What for you, like when it came to finding that mindset switch, were you listening to music? I know you said you were taking a step
Yeah.
back, and
Yeah,
what type
man.
of music were you listening to?
I love that you asked that, and I don't say that just to say, "Oh, great question." Like you reminded me because in that same period, um, my one of my favorite artists of all time, his name is Dayglow. Have you heard of Dayglow or listened to
Yes,
Dayglow?
love
Dude,
Dayglow.
I love Dayglow. I've met him twice. He's a cool dude.
I
Um,
saw that post on your Instagram. That's so
yeah,
funny.
dude, I loved it. But you reminded me that his newest album released um, right around that time, and he's the first song on the album is called "Mindless Creatures." Pretty much, it's about because he's a successful dude. He's
Yeah,
made it,
definitely.
you can say, in the music industry, and the song is about he's reflecting on the person he was when he was starting Dayglow, and when no one knew his music, and who he's become now. Not to say he's, or mainly his mindset that he had when he started versus now. And he, some of the lyrics, one lyric specifically got me. And I remember laying here on my mattress, which is on the floor. I can
Yeah,
afford a bed frame. I just decided I don't really care. I'll sleep on the floor.
it's true, dude. I
But
did the same thing forever. It's so
yeah,
funny. Yeah.
uh but the lyric that, oh, what I was getting at is I was listening to this song at night, and I remember being so angry, and I was angry because I was just in such a bad mood in general, like I was telling you. And this album, my favorite artist released a new album, and I feel like I didn't even care to, listen to it, but I was, and the song just, um, it blew me away, and I can't even find the lyric, but pretty much what he said is, that the lyric was just saying that the entire time that he's been pursuing Dayglow, that he's been chasing this feeling, or trying to feel the way he already felt before it all became different. That's the lyric.
Mm,
And and it reminded me that, like, whatever it is that I'm chasing, if I'm trying to do, this music thing, if I'm trying to make money in whatever job I'm doing, like, whatever is on the other side of that hill, I'm not going to find this internal happiness there, like,
mm.
I've got to lock in and decide to be happy right now, decide to be happy with the journey. And so Dayglow, the music that I was listening to, which was just straight Dayglow, that whole album, that was really the beginning of me snapping out of it, really, and
Wow.
starting to look for the good in life and enjoy the process of making music, because it is such a process. And I just wanted to get done with it. I wanted all these songs to just be finished and say, here it is, everyone. Like, and I was like, I remembered that the process, that's the best part. Making music is the best part, and everyone else gets to hear it, but no one really gets to be there while I'm making it. which is really, it's a really special process. And so I've been enjoying it for what it is and loving every moment of it, because at the end of the day, that's when you get the best result, and that's when the song is at its best, when I wasn't trying to just get a finished product. But
Right.
that's the best way I could put it. And
Yeah,
I
dude.
love that you asked it that way.
No, I appreciate it. And, that connects to running for me. It's like, I love running. I absolutely do. But, man, like, I go through weeks where I'm just like, it's just so. I try and run once a day. And I'm doing like 6 mile runs typically. And, if
Yo.
I hit a 3 or 4 mile run, then it's just, I'm kind of like, I don't want to be there, but I'm here.
Yeah.
And with the runs, it's like, you always just want that final number. You're chasing that final
Right.
number. And then when you hit it, you're like, fuck, I have to come back here tomorrow. And it's just like this constant journey. And when I'm really in a good place, like I love the process of running, because I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this is so like beneficial. It's like therapy for me. It's
Right.
helping my mind. But on those shitty days where I'm just like, fuck, I don't want to be here, and I'm just trotting along, and I'm like, I just can't wait till this is over. Those are the days where, one, it's the most important that you get through those days and still do what you have to do. But two, it's like,
Absolutely.
you just have to, like you said, like, ground yourself in understanding, like, it's about the process. It's not even about that number. It really isn't. It's not about hitting 6 miles. It's not about finishing the song. It's about the process that goes through there, that you go through. And there's a wonderful quote that I love, and it might be, I might butcher it a little, but it's, the man that walks into the river twice is not walking into the same river the second time, and he is not the same man the second time.
Right.
And just like
I've
everything
heard
is
that.
so changing, and you're constantly being altered, and just the process of being a human, you know
Absolutely.
and you start viewing
No.
things different. Like, the runs aren't the same, the songs aren't the same anymore. Like, I'm sure you have
Yes.
times where you go back to your music, the day after, and you're like, I want to take this a completely different direction, or
Mhm.
this is how I hear it now. Like, this lyric is so much deeper than I thought it was.
Absolutely. And for me, I start feeling that when I've finished a really awesome song, or a song that I really love. And then I get it in my head that I've got to do it again. I'm like, how do I make a song that was that good again? And I'm just
Mm,
worried about the end result again. I'm like, dude, just get in there, because I mean, even if I make a banger debut album, like it's so common for people to get in the studio after, or like if they, people love it and it was very successful. It's so common for people to get back into the studio and they don't know what to do. They're like, I just don't know how to follow that up. And it's like,
right.
just like you said, you're a different person. Just what make the music that you would make now, pretty much.
Right.
You're not making that album again. You're making a new one. So
Yeah, have you ever seen Tick Tick
absolutely.
Boom on Netflix?
No, is it a
No?
show?
Okay. It's a movie, and it's based on the play. I forget the original guy who did the play, but I love the movie. It's with Andrew Garfield, and there's a
I love
scene.
him.
Yeah, I love him too. And he does this. So his character, he writes this play, and the whole, like, first half of the movie is like about him creating this play, and it
Hmm.
just like builds up this climax, crazy climax. Like, he finally finishes it. He finally wrote all the songs, and everything was good. And it came to the day that they're performing it, and they fucking kill it. They kill it, but they needed funding, and they needed a person to invest really into the play and into the director, who was Andrew Garfield. And after the day of the play, he's like, he killed it, and he's just waiting for a call. And he waits a couple days, and nobody calls. And eventually, he calls his agent, and he's like, "What do we do now? Like, what's the next play?" And she says there is, like, you realistically, you have to write another play. You have to keep writing and stick to what you know. Like, what you created is the past now, basically, is what she tells him. And it's such a strong message, because at the end of the day, it's like, you hit your climax, for instance, and
Mm-hmm.
there's still more. Like you still have to keep pushing, and it might not be what you want it to be. Like the outcome might not be like what you
Yeah,
envisioned, but you have to write that next play.
absolutely. And honestly, now that you're describing it, I feel like I've seen that clip like on TikTok or something,
Right.
because I remember like seeing something very similar to that. It was probably from that. And yeah, I just remember her saying like you got to do it again and again and
Right.
again,
Yeah,
like just
exactly.
over and
That is
over again, starting new. And the whatever you're working on is never going to be the same as the previous work. And I feel like when it all starts to get super similar, it's not always the most genuine too. And
right.
sometimes people don't want, like, I think as from the perspective of the audience, like when your favorite band comes out with a new album, in your mind you think you want like a carbon copy of what they already have,
Right.
but usually the album is nothing like you expected and people are disappointed, and then they listen more and they're like, holy crap, I love it.
Right.
And I think that's kind of the job as an artist, is to always be kind of reinventing, not reinventing, but um there's a word I can't think of.
Yeah.
It's kind of pioneering into new eras, I guess, not to be
It's
a
dude.
reference
I
Taylor
love.
Swift.
No, you're perfect. I love that. I love that idea. And I used to ask myself, I'm like, why isn't this the same? Or like, why do they keep switching it up? Or
Yeah,
what is different about this album? And then I came to the conclusion, and it makes me love those different albums even more. Like Beastie Boys, their album they dropped in 2011. I think it's the Hot Sauce Committee Part Two. That
okay.
album, nobody talks about it that I know, but that is one of my favorite albums of all time, and it's just because,
Yeah,
and it's so different than from what they released prior, um at least in my opinion. And the reason why I love it so much is because it just genuinely, like, you can feel like they made it for them, like this is for
yeah,
them. And I love when artists do that, because like especially mainstream artists, where you're listening to an album and you're like, this is so different, but it's genuine. It's a solo journey, like it's a self help journey basically that the
yeah,
artist
and
is going
everyone's
through.
just watching it, pretty
Right.
much.
And that's like being so unapologetically you. And that is what I love. And that is what I
Yeah,
think is so important, is this isn't designed for the consumer. Like, this is just what we went into the studio and we made, because this is
exactly.
what we were going through. And that's like a whole nother level of authenticity that should not go overlooked.
I agree, absolutely. And it reminds me of an album that came out by my favorite band of all time, The Killers. I got
Yeah.
The Killers, Dayglow, the 1975. I'll talk about all of them because they're all equally as influential to me. But pretty much, the Killers released an album when I was graduating high school, I believe, called Pressure Machine, and it was. Are you familiar with The Killers? You know,
Briefly, they have that one great album, like that
yeah,
they did the. Yeah, I got you.
Mr. Brightside.
Yeah, Mr.
Th-
Brightside, and then
yeah,
they have what else is on that album? That album's great. That, like,
it
top
is
to bottom.
great. Yeah, they got Somebody Told Me. That's another one that a lot of
Yep.
people love. So they're known for that kind of music, rock, early 2000s rock. And this album was the album I'm talking about that they released when I was graduating high school. It was so like folk oriented. I would
Mm,
say folk, but kind of like country and western, and it was so different, and so many people hated it when it came out, but the album is just phenomenal and it's gorgeous. And you could turn that album on and be crying and then rocking out. And so absolutely, I love to see artists completely, they know that they're breaking the, I guess, going against what people expect or what they think that they want, but they do it anyway.
definitely. Yeah, and going against the grain to find
Yeah.
themselves even more, and that's a beautiful thing. And I kind of want to talk about your growth as an artist, and mainly the two songs that you have released, "Wish Me Well" and "You Don't Live Here Anymore." Um, you know, again, these tracks like got me through a lot. Like you have no idea. "You Don't Live Here Anymore." You have a lyric, and you say, you're talking about, I don't even know, like, is this based on a real story? Like, because you're
It
talking, "You don't live here
yeah,
anymore. I've been having trouble falling asleep." And then you say, "Maybe if I keep thinking, you'll come home." And that lyric just really stuck with me.
dude, thanks, man. I remember writing that lyric, uh, and I loved it. I mean, did you have more to ask about it, or
Just more so, like, is this a real story? And like, as an artist, we'll touch on, kind of what brought you to that point and how
sure?
writing is like therapy and stuff like that. But really, just talk about that song and talk about, yeah, that lyric in particular.
Yeah,
That's
man.
that's one I was curious about.
Well, I love that because the goal, of course, is to always make music that relates, that the listener can imagine how it applies to their own life. Where you can, it kind of inspires thought when you're listening to it, instead of like, this is what it's about and you're just listening to me talk about my life. My
Right.
favorite music is like, it gives me insight into my own life and my own relationships. And so I guess I try not to always be so literal, but I think I am literal a lot of times in my music. But I like it, and it is what it is. But that lyric specifically, "Maybe if I keep thinking, you'll come home." It's I'm a chronic overthinker, especially when I'm going to bed. So,
Mm.
and I will think about something, and maybe not so much lately because I've kind of locked in and some more aspects, but especially when I was writing that song. First off, the song is about kind of about a lot of people who went off to college, and not necessarily like anyone that I was romantically interested in at the time,
Mm.
but I love taking certain people who in my life and writing songs about them, whether they're close friends or family members. Not necessarily family members, um, pretty much just my close friends or people I know of. It really helps inspire me and gives me things to that I'm interested in writing about. But this was particularly about my friends at the time who had gone away to college, and I've got loads of other songs that are on the album about it. But pretty much feeling left behind, and no amount of thinking about something will change reality. That's really all
Mm.
that lyric is about. You can think about it and you can stress about something and you can want something, but and not to be depressing.
No,
I'd
that's
love
like
to have
so
it
beautiful.
have like a hopeful twist to it, because you know you just stressing about something isn't going to change it, but you can change your life if you do something. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think that's where.
That's that is such a beautiful thing, dude. No amount of thinking can change reality.
Yeah.
That is so much wisdom, dude. And I hope you realize, like, that is such a, like, a lot of people, they overthink, and I'm one of those people for sure. Like, I think about a lot of I don't know. For me, like, what keeps me up at night is my family. I'm like, without a doubt, I like constantly overthink the familial situations that I have, with them, and I'm like, how can I be better here and here and here?
Right.
And you're totally right. Like, the thinking doesn't change reality. What changes reality is like you actually doing something. And
Yeah.
I've gotten very good at turning my thoughts into actions. And there was a beautiful quote that I heard. I love to read, and this guy, he was talking about, okay, every chapter I read, I make sure it leads to some sort of action. And he'll write it in the book, and he'll literally be like, this chapter made me feel this way. This is the next step I'm going to take to like implementing it into my life. Because what's the point of reading and ideas if we aren't actually implementing
Amen
those
to
the
that.
solutions, even if it's just a thought or an idea. It's like, to understand if it's real or if it works, like we have to implement. And yeah, dude, that is such a great line. No amount of thinking can change reality. That might be one of my
Absolutely.
favorite quotes now, and it's tied to your name. So
Yes, sir.
yes. But so with that song, what kind of clarity did uh, the writing process bring you in like understanding and coming to terms with like everyone, as you said, like leaving you behind in college or in pursuing college? um, like, did it bring you clarity, or did it make you overthink more even, or or what was that
You
like?
honestly, I I don't know if the song really helped me in that way. I think the song helped me. Yeah, I don't think it really did much for me in that way. I have another song that's very similar. It's called "Will You Remember?" At least that's its working title.
Yeah.
It's about the same thing, but it's more specifically about a certain girl and who also had gone away to college, and I was never in a romantic relationship with this person, but and maybe honestly that's kind of who "You Don't Live Here Anymore" was about. That's probably what that was. um but this other song in particular that is definitely going to be on the album, and I've been working on it a lot lately. They I think they just kind of help me cope with feelings that I've had. Really,
Mm.
writing music about certain things, not even really cope, but it helps me understand my thoughts really well. Something about me is I've never been good at articulating my thoughts to
Mm.
people, especially like in di- more difficult situations or circumstances. Like if I had a boundary I needed to put up, I have the hardest time communicating that to someone, or I have in the past. And so sales, working at Verizon and you know over trying to overcome objections or whatever it might be, or just trying to pitching something, that is something that is so against my nature initially. But I've been on a journey to be more articulate, and I think my music helps me to understand even what my emotions are or have been, because I think that is the root of the problem. I don't think I really always understand myself. So
Right. Wow.
my music is so personal to me, and I've got songs on this album that I'm scared to show the world. I'm scared to show certain people in my life these songs because they're so honest, and
Right.
they have the potential to start conversations I don't know that I'm ready to have. Um, but
Hey, but those conversations are needed to be
they need
had.
to be had, absolutely. And that's just that's a me thing where I try to not rock the boat, so to speak. But I think that, like you said, those conversations do need to be had, because with certain people, like if I'm not completely honest with how I feel or how they certain people have made me feel, like whatever relationship that I might have with them it's not completely honest,
Mm,
for me,
that's
I feel
totally true.
like in order to have a deep relationship with some of these people, like you're right, these conversations need to be had. I vibe with that.
That's dude, and I'm telling you, for instance, like in that relationship with the girl that you met, it was a beautiful relationship. At the end of the day, like I have no animosity.
Yeah,
Like I love that woman so much, and I was very in the boat of I don't know how to be stern about setting boundaries. Now I'm very good at it, and now, but
yeah,
it is a set, like it's uncomfortable, like without a doubt, like
dude,
saying this is what I
yes,
need, this is what I like, this is what I need, and this is what I can
yes,
bring you, is a whole different vibe. Because like I've always been like a very giving person. Like I will give you space, I will give you trust, I will give you love, but I also need to receive that. and I would always just focus on the giving and never like what would come my way.
You and me
And
both, man. I feel that. Yes, sir.
right, and those are the important things. Like it has to go both ways. It's a two-way street, and that is the key to life, man. Is just understanding, like, okay, look, this person or I bring this person this value. I think this person's really dope because of this, but what do they bring me? And it is shitty to like have to look at things like that, but everyone is I've fallen victim to that mindset and like, oh, I'll keep doing this, I'll keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And if nothing came my way, I wouldn't complain because that's just not the person I am. And I still
Right.
don't. But you need the boundaries and go on.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and it almost feels wrong to like bring something up like to someone that you care about and be like, it feels like selfish to be like, yo, you why don't you do this, or I don't the when you do this it makes me feel lesser, and so please don't do that. Like it feels selfish to bring those things up, but I don't think it is at all. In fact, it's not. Especially if you're in a relationship with someone, it's so important to talk about those things. And you're so right, it is a two-way street. And I so am for uh two-sided relationships. I mean, that's how a relationship needs to be, you know what I mean?
Needs to be, dude. And that is the hardest thing. Like, I mean, even with your friendships, it's like how much is equal. Like look at everything around you. And
Yeah.
this is something that I've really thought about in the last week. So it's kind of crazy you bring it up, but that is something that I've struggled with dramatically, and drawing those boundaries and understanding like I can give in this sense, but I need to receive in this sense. Like, it's so important, and like I can't emphasize it enough. So like that is such a clarity bringing topic for me, and I really appreciate you, like, I don't know, being vulnerable enough to admit like there's conversations that you're probably not ready to have that this music will probably bring out,
Yeah.
but those are the most important conversations to have. And it might even be worth, even if you don't drop the songs, or like if you change your mind about it, like still having those conversations is so
Absolutely.
important. And we only, life is so short, like it really is. Like it's not as long as it might seem,
Dude, I
in a
know
blink
we're
of an
in our
eye.
20s.
I know. Dude,
I feel
I
like I'm
know.
12, dude.
It happens so fast, dude. I swear I
I
was in high
know.
school like yesterday. The
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it all moves so quick. So having those conversations now or beats never having them or having them tomorrow. And
Yeah.
that's something I realized too, is like there's no reason for me to like go to bed and struggle sleeping because I didn't say something I needed to say. And I've done that way too much. So in the past, so I'm not doing
It's
it
not worth
again.
it, bro.
It's not. It's not, and that kind of ties in at least to how I perceive your second song, "Wish Me Well." Dude, this one, I literally like I don't know which one's my favorite because I relate to both of them so much. Talk about "Wish Me Well" and that process, and one thing I wrote down, the lyric that I love is like, "I don't need you to explain, nothing can change my mind, but while you can, wish me well." And it comes into the chorus, and it's so
Yeah.
good. But talk about that one, and just the process that went into that, because I used to think when I listened to the two songs, I was like, "You Don't Live Here Anymore" and "Wish Me Well" are so similar, just in the feelings that they would bring me. And then I really started listening, and I was like, "Holy shit, these are like so different." And the actual topic is like, if you just look at the titles, like "You Don't Live Here Anymore" and "Wish Me Well" are two completely different concepts.
Good
Like one
point.
is, yeah. So talk about "Wish Me Well."
By the way, I love hearing your perspective on these songs because
Mm,
it's I don't know, it makes them feel more real. Like when I make music, it's my music, and so I appreciate your thoughts on it, and uh I love to hear your perspective on it because honestly I hadn't even thought about the contrast between the two songs and
right.
how different they are, but yeah, because you don't live here anymore. It's definitely a song. It's like coping with I'm here and you're just gone, and dang, pretty much.
Right.
And then Wish Me Well to me is like it's an empowering song. It's not to be the the aim of the song is not to be like a, because pretty much it's about starting your a new chapter of your life, and not allowing certain, maybe it's a person or it's something that has previously put a damper on you or your whatever it might be. It's kind of like it's kind of a goodbye to a previous chapter and starting something new.
Right.
And it's empowering because for me it was that song, bro, I wrote when I first moved here to Virginia. And
Wow.
so it was literally about making a massive change and saying goodbye to Tucson and some, relationships that I had going on there, and really just kind of I lost my train of thought there at the end.
No, you're perfect, man. There's with what you said so far, I don't know, with you moving, you have a part in the song where you're like wish me well, and then you sing it's your last chance. And I believe so. If I'm wrong, that's how I hear the song in my head right now. But
Yeah,
I'm pretty
that's the
sure that's,
lyric.
yeah. Okay, perfect. But you say it's your last chance, like, and that is such a huge like statement to make. Like if I were to write someone
Right?
a letter, I'm like, "Wish me well, it's your last chance," and that's how I capped it off. It could be perceived so many ways, and like,
Right?
just
No, for real.
is that how it felt? Like that move of just this is gonna be gone forever, or what is?
Honestly,
Because it
yeah.
is it hopeful at all, or
Absolutely.
did people say did they wish you well, or
Yeah, some people did, some people didn't. And it's not
or
like, by the way, it's not like I've got massive beef with anyone. It's really not like what this is about.
yeah,
Uh, it's just like some, you can tell some certain people in your life, some are genuine and some are less genuine. And it's a, it's a song about like trying to, it's just saying goodbye to anyone who might not really be adding anything or might be detracting. And so definitely that the song, I think I wrote it a month after I got to Virginia, and I wrote it in probably like 3 hours, and I produced it within a week. It's the fastest that it's ever
wow,
happened. I was just so locked in for it. And like we had previously talked about, I wasn't worried about putting that song out. I didn't even really plan on it. But as it started coming together, I was like, dude, people are gonna love this.
dude,
But
I love
I
that
was
song.
just so locked into, thank you. I was so locked into the process, and I loved making it. And I always, my music is always a little dramatic. And so, like I said, I don't have massive beef with anyone or like old, because the lyric, it's your last chance, it feels like an ultimatum or something like that. But
But it conveys what you were trying to convey like perfectly. And for me, I probably should preface the question with just telling you, like, again, when I went through my breakup, it was both of these songs on loop. I remember that song and that line just meant so much to me, of it being like wish me well, this is your last chance, like serious,
it's bold.
like what, yeah, like what we have is gone, and that's okay. But at least, like, my relationship ended pretty poorly. But I will
Sorry
say,
to hear
like,
that.
oh dude, that's life. And I've really come to terms with the growing process and the growing
Yeah.
pains that come with it.
And
um
sorry, you finish your
no,
thought.
yeah, but what I was just saying is just like that wish me well, it's your last chance. Just, I don't know, it empowered me to put up those standards and understand, like, hey, look, like this is the last chance. Like this is
Yeah.
what it is, and what has been has to be gone. I hate to like
No,
hate to say
absolutely,
that, but it's true.
absolutely. And you remind me of a buddy that I have. Uh, I almost said had, but we're still really good friends. But
Yeah.
he lives in Tucson. Not to air out his personal business, but pretty much he was he was engaged to someone, and there was a boundary that this person had crossed, a big boundary, um, and I have so much respect for him, and my respect went up for him even when this was happening. He was living with this person, and he left. Um, he he had given this person a chance pretty much, and the boundary was crossed, and so he went and got a trailer, and he took all his stuff and he went back to live with his, you know,
Wow.
he went to live elsewhere. And that was someone he was with for a long time. And he
Yeah.
was just like, I'm I'm done. You crossed this boundary that and I've already given you a chance pretty much. And so
Wow.
maybe even that, because I've written songs about or incorporated that into songs before, just because I he told me that and I was like, oh my god. It just it's so important, because as sad as it is, when if you're in a relationship with someone and it's they're not treating you how you deserve to be treated, it sucks to have to be like, all right, we're done. It's not like you want to be done with this person or break up, but you have to be able to have the self-respect to know when to finally give yourself, I keep saying that the respect to just leave. That's pretty much what
Exactly.
that is.
Exactly. And I lived with this girl for 8 months. I
Yeah.
got her a promise ring, and I just remember, like, without a doubt, like me and your homie clearly have like kind of gone through something similar. And it's so interesting because your song was personal to you, but it also felt personal to me in that sense. And that is music, like to me, like that is such a powerful thing that music, writing, and
Yeah.
specific medias can do for you. And so I just want to say, man, yeah, like the both tracks are incredible. I can tell it comes from a very
Thank you.
personal space for you. And just to kind of go back, with you and your brothers, like you're making music under Anthemic. You have the Jonah Show, and writing is personal for you, and making music. What is it like when you have other
Yeah.
people's voices on a project, or like other people's inputs on
Yeah.
a lyric or something like that? Does it make it more personal, or do you lose that sense of identity with when it comes to that?
Well, I no, not at all. I no to I it is doesn't become less personal. I
Okay.
do the dynamic when I'm writing with my older brother. His name is Dylan. When I'm writing with Dylan, it's so when we get in the zone, I stop really focusing on what the song is about, and I dive into what it is sonically, and just
Mhm.
designing the landscape that the lyrics and the vocals sit on top of. And so that's what's so different between what I do with Anthemic versus the Jonah Show. But me and Dylan, we have such similar shared experiences in this. We've always been so close, and we really write about the same stuff. And so when I'm working with him or my little brother Tyler, it's I love hearing what they have to bring to the table. And with Tyler, he's very much the on the music side, where he's starting to write lyrics. But all that being said, when I'm writing with Dylan, his lyrics, I resonate with them so hard. And at first I didn't really realize that I did until about a year ago. I was listening to our older, so we have an EP called Finding 2003. It is my favorite piece of work Uh, I mean, I love it all, but I really
Right.
love this Finding 2003 EP. These four songs, and the song itself, Finding 2003. The lyrics in that song, I never really listened to them so closely, but I was driving to work. You know, I had 35 minutes to kill. I was just listening to the whole discography, and that song came on, and I was just brought to tears by how much I felt those lyrics, and it just meant a lot to me. So all that to say, my music with Anthemic is just as personal to me as the Jonah Show, and it's because I mean I write it with my brother, and a
Right.
lot of the time it's I don't think we usually write about like relationships with Anthemic. It's usually very it's either about childhood or it's about a dystopian future. It's one of the two.
Right. Right, dude,
So
that's awesome. And
yeah.
what have you learned or taken away from your brother? Like I'm sure that strengthened your relationship
Oh,
dramatically, right?
absolutely. And it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. A lot of the time when I get into the studio with him, it's like, you know, it's so we have to get in the zone together because a lot of the time, you know, we're not in the zone, and he'll be jamming on guitar, and I'm like, dude, lock in, you know, let's start building something. But
Right.
making music with him has it's strengthened my relationship with him, and definitely it grew my patience because and kind of like dampen my ego too because like making music with someone else you've got to make compromises, and even like
Mhm.
when he's doing something like I was just saying, it's always it's our running joke when he picks up a guitar. I'm like, oh, because he's not really like a guitar player, but he's good at
Right.
it. But like I've got to catch myself and be like and let him have his space to be an artist too. You know, it's
Right.
not just about me. I've got the Jonah Show, and that's actually where the name the Jonah Show came from. Is uh, it's kind of a joke about me. Kind of it's a place a space for me to be a little more self centered in my being an artist. But when I'm doing it with Anthemic,
Mm.
I you know it's a shared project. But in general, honestly, the most that I've got really gotten out of it is just a you know a closer relationship with my brother and respect for him because when we started Anthemic, we were recording vocals in a car on my iPad, and he was initially the vocalist because I was too scared to, and you know we poor dude like I've never really had the situation where someone comes up to me and they're like you know kind of hating on my music. I had one experience at the grocery store where a guy was like telling me he's like I loved those lyrics, but maybe if you just it was about you don't live here anymore. He's like but if
Yeah.
you just change like everything that's going on in the background, I think you'd be better. I was like okay dude, appreciate your insight.
Right.
but um but Dylan, he has you know ever since we started he's had people bold people who felt that they were giving advice but were actually you know just not being very supportive, you know, telling him their opinion about how his voice sounded on a song or whatever it might be. And so he's always kind of felt and I talked to him about it last night that the music there was some sort of problem with the music or that it wasn't that good, but so I've had some respect for him for making the music anyway with me. And
Right. See,
anyway,
and that's such an interesting concept because, I get very similar kind of input on these podcasts and, things that I have going on in my life. And I've gotten so like good at just, keep on, I take it in one ear out the other essentially
uh-huh,
because it's a journey, it's a process and everyone loves, everyone thinks it's perfection over progress. I say everyone, I'm generalizing, obviously, but I genuinely think the process is, uh, it's so important. And I always say progress is greater than perfection. Progress outweighs perfection. Progress is even the gateway to perfection. And
Absolutely.
so many people don't even try with it's something that they're passionate about. So it's like, who am I to kind of start my journey and listen to the outside voices when they aren't willing to even start, and that's the
Absolutely.
hardest part, is like just understanding like this journey is genuinely, it's you versus you. You're alone, and like it's just, there's very few people that are gonna come along your path and just be like, dude, I love this, keep fucking going, like I want to see where you take this. And that's the type of person that I really was like, I want to be this person, because I have had so many people in my life that kind of come in and just shit on what I was doing, or like
Yeah.
shit
Yeah.
on the progress that I've made. And even with the job that I was working, like I had family members who were telling me, like, don't work this job, like you're gonna kill yourself with hours, it's gonna be too much work. And like I always viewed that as a challenge that I have to overcome, like I have to do it. Like everything you said sounds scary to you, but to me it's like, if anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be me. And I have to prove it to myself. It's not even proving it to
Yeah.
you. And you get that
Absolutely.
sense of like identity, it's like, oh, it's such a freeing feeling. And with your music, I'm sure you feel that 1,000%.
Well, absolutely. And of course, it's the classic Jonah wants to be a rock star. You know what I mean? And it's from like a logical standpoint, like there's so much that has to go right in order to make it like a career. But there's also like certain levels to it. Like I'm not really going for like Taylor Swift stardom, you know? There are so many different artists out there who you and I have probably never even heard of, who their whole entire, living comes from their music.
Right.
And um I love what you said about that, about how, and it really is that way for me. I'm doing this not to prove anyone else wrong, because
Right.
that's a very temporary, even if you are proving someone wrong, you're like, you make it and you're like, haha, and then now what? It's got to be
Exactly.
for you. And it is for me. That it is absolutely something that I'm passionate about. It is what I am doing with my life, regardless of if it's successful or not. So, um, yeah.
Dude, and that is such a, I cannot explain like how, one of my favorite artists is Russ. I've mentioned this on probably just about every podcast, but he has
Yeah.
two books. He has two books, and one is It Was You All Along, and it's such a powerful, like the whole book just touches on that theme of like, it's in you, like this is your journey, and you might have self-doubt, you might have things that you question, but at the end of the day, like, it's you, and it's been you all along, like it's always
Yeah.
going to be that way too. It's just, it's a game of you versus you, and you have to wake up every morning and be better than who you were yesterday. And it
So
might sound
true.
corny or cliche, but like that is life. That is life. And then
It's
once you,
cliche for a reason. Yeah.
the cliche for a reason, exactly, dude. But that is the ultimate thing. I think progress is the ultimate pursuit is another quote he has in there. So that book changed my life. And when you talk about your music and writing from the perspectives of that you hear around you, or hardships that other people face that inspire you to write a song, stuff like that, it's such a it's such a powerful thing, because you know we live, again, it's you versus you, but at the same time there's still value in other people's perspective, and still
Oh yeah.
value in other people's like hardships that can kind of translate to your music, your creativity. Let's just say, if I were to box you in a room and just leave you there for months, like, do you think you could make a song, like, or because one thing that sticks out to me is, and this is another quote, is from MGK. It's on his Glass House album, or his
Okay.
yeah, that album with Glass House on it. It's he talks about he's like, my label hates me because I need to keep going through shit to keep writing. And
Hmm.
and that's how I feel when I write. Just I like to write. I'm working on a book, but I feel like I always have to go through something to actually write something down, or like write thoughts, or like little thoughts connect and it leads to this bigger chapter in my book or whatever. But
Yeah,
I at the end of the day, it's like if you were to box me in a room and just leave me there, I would be a horrible writer. And that's because I'm not
yeah,
getting outside perspective. I'm not getting, um, I'm not getting any value from the outside world. And it's
absolutely.
right. So like, what's
One of
your
the
opinion on
first,
that?
yeah, one of the first things that I do is when I start writing something, and it's not like I do it consciously, it just kind of works out this way. Whenever I start producing something, I always like export it to my phone, to my iCloud pretty much, so I can listen to it whenever, usually on my way to work. um I am working on a song. It's called Friends. I started it a couple weeks ago. I started writing it months and months and months ago, but I started producing it a couple weeks ago. And I, long story short, like, no, if you boxed me in a room, dude, and told me to write an album, you'd get Angry Jonah writing the album of his life. Because when I hear my music out in the world, like if I'm driving or if I'm on a walk, I hear it differently. I hear it like more objectively, and
Mm,
it's more beautiful that way. So not even just like talking about my life experiences that I'm having at the time, like even just what I'm looking at. If it's a cool autumn morning here, it's beautiful because we've got the leaves changing color and it's a little brisk outside. I don't know how the weather is there. Is it
dude, it's
cooling down?
still like 100 degrees. It was 100 degrees yesterday, but this week it looks like it's cooling.
um, are you still in Tucson, by the way, or is that where
I'm
you are
in
now?
I'm in Tempe, yeah. So my family lives in
Gotcha,
Tucson, but I moved up to Tempe. I actually think, yeah, no, when I met you, I was living at my girlfriend's family's house in
gotcha.
Sahuarita, and then yeah, and then I lived with
Okay,
my mom, and then moved up to Tempe, moved back, and then moved back up to Tempe. So
dude,
yeah,
I
it was a
want to
lot.
hear more about that, and how you like Tempe, because I've been there once or twice. Um, but just to finish my thought, um, no, dude, I rely on hearing my music in the car, hearing it on a walk, because it helps me know the direction. Because normally when I start producing a song, it's just the beginning part, and then I'll
Right.
finish it later. But um, and I write the most meaningful music. Yep, when I'm going through something, pretty
Right.
much.
And oh, without a doubt, and I brought this up on the last podcast, but my boss, he said something that was super valuable to me. He was just like, Brett, when you think about school and you think about your classes, do you ever tell stories about the easy ones, or is it always the hard ones? I was like, it's always the hard ones. And he's like, and that's exactly my point. It's like we never remember the easy stuff, or like you do, but you have to like, you know, it's not the
Yeah,
first thing that comes to mind,
yeah,
and when it comes to creativity, I think it's so much art is rooted in sadness, sorrow, progress, whatever. It's never
absolutely,
about perfection. And it's so interesting, but that's how poetry has been for the the entirety of life, really. Like it's always, there's always like rooted um sadness, even, or
absolutely.
situations. It's incredible.
And I mean, you look at pretty much the most popular artist in the world, Taylor Swift. I mean, the joke is that every album is a breakup album, or she's got to date another dude before she releases another album.
Right.
Just because not to, I love Taylor Swift. She's got some bangers. So no hate there, but it's really, and I think about Post Malone too, because he hated making music at one point, and he just didn't want to do it, and then he starts doing his country venture because it's something that he's interested in. I mean, I don't know much about it, or or if he was going through something, but
Right, or it's
it
different. It's
goes
a
back to,
challenge. Right.
yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about, how everything it's so everything is so fluid and I guess ever changing, and no piece of work is going to be the same as the last piece of work.
Exactly.
um so that's something that needs to be embraced. I think it's something that I was like uh panicking about internally, um like, or even trying to like pinpoint what my music is, like what's my sound, like dude, it's whatever it is when I'm writing the song, you know. i
Exactly.
I don't gotta like put
You
myself in a box.
Right. You and my buddy Kyle would get along so well because he makes music and he says the exact same thing. If of it, well, first of all, he went through like a whole year long period where he's like, "I found my sound. I found my sound. This is my sound." And then now, if you were to talk to him, he'd be like, "Holy shit! Like I don't have like a particular sound. Like I just make music, you know." And
Yeah,
stripping it down and even like making it nascent to where you admit like this is just music. At the end of the day, this is just music. You know, I say it all the time with like running. You don't become a better runner by like, doing nutrition and focusing on form and everything like that. Like you can naturally, you can think about those processes and
yeah,
dial in, but realistically you become a better runner by running. You become a better weightlifter by lifting, and it's a process.
absolutely.
And we get stuck in analysis paralysis all the time, and I'm sure you've seen that with music to where even you were like scared to sing, or you didn't think you were good enough to sing, or you have that feeling of anxiety. But at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's just like you get better at singing by singing, and you have to
Hmm.
do it, and you just have to say yes, like let's do it. And I want to touch on that a little, just like you had a performance a couple months ago, I don't remember exactly when, but what is it like performing these super personal songs, and how did how does that look? Because that is one thing
Yeah.
that I was talking about with Kyle. He was like, he has like this really personal song. It's one of my favorites. It's called "I'm Sorry," and he's like, I don't know what performing this would be like. He's like, I'm used to just getting up and performing hype rap songs. This would be a
Yeah.
change of pace. Like, I don't think my audience would like it. But at the end of the day, it's like if it's a song and people love live music in general. You could get up there and
Absolutely.
perform just about anything, and as long as it's you and what you're doing and it sounds good, like that's all that matters. It can mean anything.
For
But what is
sure.
that like for you, and what have you experienced in that regard?
You're talking about, just what's my experience been performing live, performing some of the more personal music.
Yes. Yep.
It's been a trip, to be honest. Especially because I I just get so nervous before a show, which it quickly dissipates when I start playing. For example, I always start a show with "You Don't Live Here Anymore." It's a good way to get me warmed up, and I think anyone who's watching too. It's a pretty hyped song, and you got a synth solo in there. So it's it's I love doing it. It's super fun. It's pretty much what I live for, which is something that I want to do more. I haven't really performed here in Virginia. I did when I came back to visit Arizona. I booked a show again, and I love it. But
Good.
so I have an experience to share from when it was actually when I went back to Tucson, and I was like, I might as well play a show while I'm here. Just because I had an in at Groundworks there.
Wow.
I don't know if you've heard of Groundworks, but it's the pretty much the main place where I've played. I
Wow.
love
That's
Groundworks. Shout
amazing.
out to them. But um I I didn't play You Don't Live Here Anymore that night because I planned on it, but I got cut short. So I regretted not playing it, and someone was like, "You didn't play it." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right." And but because I was playing a lot of new stuff, and so I don't regret that. I played a lot of these songs that kind of I've been working on, and I guess gatekeeping in a way. I'm really trying to get them out there. But one of these songs, so I've got a song called Sleeping with You, and it's not like a very sexual song. It's a very and it's not sexual at all. It's just about um trying to cope with someone being with someone else, really, when you think that they
Mm.
should be with you, and exchanging, a very personal interaction with someone else, and it's, it hurts you. It's like it's the same topic as Mr. Brightside and Somebody Else by the 1975, which I'm rocking their shirt today.
Oh, let's go.
uh,
Come on. Come on.
but I definitely wrote it from a very personal place. Like, I wasn't aiming to write it about that, it's just how it turned out.
Right.
In that song, one, the subject matter was, so this is something that I don't always really talk about. I don't know if you even know it about me, but I used to be Mormon.
Mm.
Did you know that about me?
No, you brought it up briefly, but yeah,
Okay.
nothing, not in detail.
So there's certain language that I never would use when I was practicing, and I, by the way, I it's not like, I guess I don't. It's not something that I've really talked about publicly at all. So it's something that's very, very personal to me. But that song has a word, and that's, it's I say my God, which is
Mm.
something that, oh no, I say oh God, and I knew there were going to be people there who, were close family friends the entire time I lived there, that were, that are still practicing, and people that I love. And so, while that doesn't seem like a real big deal, I knew I'd be singing that in front of them. And it is something that also I felt that I knew that it would hurt some people. It's not like I was trying to, but
Right.
I've got to be able to express myself and make the music that, like I was telling you earlier, it's very much how I express myself, and so it's important to me that I do, even if I know it's not necessarily something that certain people would like to hear out of me. So anyway, I was playing that song, and it was very nerve-wracking to, even be kind of using that type of language in front of certain people. So it was very personal to me, and it was a neat experience, and I got it over with. And
Did they say
so,
anything?
no, they didn't say anything, but yeah,
That
and I
like
knew
that
that I
might be
knew
a
they wouldn't.
conversation, right? But that might be one of those conversations that you
Yeah,
need to have, and like about expressing yourself, and
yeah, and
I
I've already
I'm all for that. I'm all for that.
yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that, and I've already actually started that conversation to a certain extent. So, um, yeah.
So when it came to your faith and your religion, what made you kind of switch? Like you said, you were Mormon. Like where are you now?
Yeah. So I that's a great question. Because there was never a definitive, all right, I'm not Mormon anymore. It was
Right.
never like that. And it was definitely started when I moved out, um and started living with my siblings. It was mostly, it's been a journey, honestly. It's so much larger than just, I'm not Mormon anymore, or I don't want to go to church anymore. It is so
Right.
much bigger than that. And my entire life, you've got this perception of these people, um, who have left the faith. Um, and it's an overall really negative perception of those people. But not that anyone really, I'm not like saying that, the people in the Mormon church are like really hateful toward ex-members. It's not like that. It's just kind of the goal in in the religion is to stay active in the religion. I think that's how it always is. And so when you see other people who have left, you're kind of like, what's their deal?
Right. Right.
But for me, the biggest thing, there's so much that's has gone into it, but for me personally, I one I love all my experiences. I love a lot of the experiences that I had growing up. I love the community. I love all those people that I got to meet in the religion. But, and no, there's no but to it. I also am so much happier without a lot of what it kind of added to my life. I
Right.
I'm just a happier person. I have my mental health is through the roof, and I my view of the world is so much more beautiful than it used to
Good.
be, and I didn't expect that. But and I think it's just opened my mind up. I was so close minded about so many things, the different possibilities. I felt like I knew everything about how the world worked and how the universe worked, and so I think I went from being a kind of an all knowing to be more of a student of
Mm,
existence and what is possible and kind of what my purpose is here on Earth.
right.
So
I love that.
yeah,
I love that outlook. I was born and raised Catholic, and I would
really.
say, yeah. So when it came to my religion, especially in the last 2 years, I got very close with my relationship with God, and I go to church, and I remember it. It was actually within the last couple of months. I was in a point where I was going to Bible studies, and I think Bible studies are very important. Like it helps educate you. You get to hear different perspectives
Hmm.
and on how people interpret the Bible, and it's valuable for sure. But I remember going to a Bible study, and I was like, oh my goodness, like this is kind of like turning my faith and my relationship with God into something that is not I founded it on, and it felt way less personal. And I just remember I had to take a step away from the Bible studies. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I want my relationship to be personal. And
Yeah,
like you, I was very open minded to just about anything. Like I have my beliefs, and I do believe in God like very heavily, and I follow my
yep,
faith. But I don't know. I've always been an open-minded person when it came to people who are even atheists, or people
yeah,
who have different faiths. And I've never been like, I can't talk to this person or whatever. It's always
right.
been, open arms. Like they have their beliefs, and at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I believe in what I believe in, and I would want someone on the other end to accept me for that too. And that's
Absolutely.
it. But it is like trivial. Like of course I have, um, struggles with my faith, without a doubt. Like my faith it's not always, inclining. Dude, it is constantly fluctuating, and it's not. I
Absolutely.
will say now it's not so volatile, but there was a period of time where, man, I was like just trying to get closer and closer, and it felt like anything I did, it brought me further away. But now I'm in a good
Yeah,
place of
I'd love
of
to hear that.
where I stand with my faith, which is good. And I think it's important as long as you believe in something. I always tell people that it's like, just believing in something and having a good value system is so important, and
Absolutely.
it separates people so dramatically. Like for the people who don't have beliefs in anything, that kind of trickles down into just everyday life of, they love people just to love people. They don't understand like why it is. And I will say my belief and my faith has brought me to a point where I can tell you why the people are in my life, and I can tell you that my values align with them here. And it's important
Yeah,
conversations to have.
I absolutely agree. Absolutely.
But that
And
is that
I
is amazing. So sorry, go on.
no, you're good. I love that you say that because there are so many things about me that um are a direct result of having been raised the way that I was, in the faith that I was. And I like I said, I love so many parts about it. And I love so many of the teachings that um it is overwhelmingly hopeful for the most part. And I totally agree with you. I think really what I'm trying to say is I don't like I don't bash Mormonism or anything like that. I
Right.
I think that it has shaped me into who I am today and how I care about people, even strangers that I meet, you know what I mean? Um and so I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think that
Beautiful.
I totally agree that having a belief system is so important because believing in something greater than yourself is it's it makes life more meaningful. And by the way, I also believe in God. Really I don't know a whole lot, you know what I mean? But
Right.
I definitely I believe that there is there's a God, and there's something, going on that is greater than I think anyone here on earth can even comprehend. That's what
Without
I
a
believe.
doubt. That's beautiful. And I totally, you said something that's so important to me of I don't know much, and that is when I started my job, I was like, we're selling data, like, and then I realized like that's not what we're doing. And but you have to come in ignorant. And even with religion, even with something
Absolutely.
as faith, it's like it's okay to not know, but it is not okay to pretend that you do know. And
I agree.
that is such a big part of my life of like accepting ignorance and understanding why am I ignorant, why or how can I not be ignorant on this topic. And
Yeah.
the step of realizing like, okay, I don't want to be ignorant here. It's like you're always going to be ignorant about something. And and that's okay. It's like people spend their lives dedicated to their faith and dedicated to the church. And it's like for
Yeah.
me to like feel like, let's say, insecure about what I know in comparison to them, it's like, dude, they've spent their life doing it. I
Exactly.
want to talk to them. It's like you with music. It's like I don't
Absolutely.
know nothing. I don't know anything about music. Really. Like if you were to sit down and talk to me about music, like I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna tell you I'm ignorant here. I don't know how to read music. I don't know how to play an instrument, but
Right.
I would love to, to be here. It's just I don't know. It's
I
such a unique thing.
I agree with you because the learning, it starts with ignorance, and it's not because you're an idiot. It's just like you can't know something until you do. And if you have the mindset of I know everything or I don't need to learn anything, then you will never improve. So it's
It's true.
important to know when you don't know something and when to shut up and learn, you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
it's a great thing. It's not a bad thing if you don't know something. It's a great
Definitely.
thing because it means you can grow.
Definitely, man. And you know, Jonah, that's all I have written down. I know we kind of went over. It's an hour and a half in, but I just want to say, man, I really appreciate you jumping on here with me, and I'm so glad we've stayed in touch. And I
Yeah,
hope
Brett.
this podcast has brought you like a little clarity on some things, because without a doubt, it brought clarity with me. And to the audience, I hope you learned something along this journey.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate you guys. So thank you.
Absolutely, Brett. No, I really appreciate you having me on because I don't always talk about things like this with really anyone except my close family. I appreciate your perspectives on not only my music but just life in general. I love the way that you think and look at the world. Um, you you're also very hopeful. Like you make me more hopeful, and that's a gift that you have. I love that you're doing this podcast because it is it's spreading so much good, man. And I appreciate you letting me be a part of it.
Thank you, man. Yeah, we'll have to get you on in the future. Little
You
album
know it.
debut, get you on.
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
Yes, sir.
I'm fully open to it. So yeah, I appreciate you, man, and yeah, thank you guys for tuning in.